Brothers and sisters, today I want to invite you to look with me at a passage that really challenges our natural ways of thinking about faith, power, and wisdom. We are in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 22 to 23, where the Apostle Paul says that Jews ask for signs, Greeks seek wisdom, but the church proclaims something completely different: Christ crucified. And Paul makes it clear that this message is never neutral. It offends some and sounds foolish to others. Jews ask for signs, and Greeks seek wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. Paul is not offering a shallow sociological observation here. He is exposing a deep theological conflict between what human beings expect from God and what God, in His sovereignty, has chosen to reveal in Christ. From the very beginning, it is important to remember what the Westminster Confession of Faith teaches. The Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, being true and eternal God, took to Himself a true human nature at the time appointed by God, WCF 8:2. This union of divinity and humanity, what we call the hypostatic union, is the backdrop of both the scandal and the apparent foolishness of the cross.
When Jesus came into the world, the Jews were not spiritually neutral. There was a strong messianic expectation grounded in the scriptures of the Old Testament. Daniel 7:13 spoke of the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. Isaiah 9:6 announced a child on whose shoulders the government would rest. Micah 5:2 spoke of a ruler who would come from Bethlehem. This expectation shows up clearly in the New Testament. Matthew 11:3, "Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another?" John 1:41, "We have found the Messiah." John 6:14, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." Matthew 21:9, "Hosanna to the Son of David." So the issue was not a lack of messianic hope. The real problem was that this hope had been shaped by political, national, and very human expectations.
From here on, it helps to organize our reflection in a few steps. The first is understanding why Paul says Christ is a stumbling block to the Jews. And the first reason is this: Jesus was simply too great for what they expected the Messiah to be. They expected a human Messiah, chosen and empowered by God, but not a Messiah who was God Himself. Yet Jesus says and does things that only make sense if He truly is God. In John 5:17-18, Jesus calls God His own Father, making Himself equal with God. In John 10:30, He says plainly, "I and the Father are one." Once again, the Westminster Confession reminds us that Christ is true God and true man, of one substance and equal with the Father. The scandal is not that Jesus exaggerates who He is. The scandal lies in the human heart that refuses to accept who He truly is. The Jews also expected a Messiah who would intercede for them, as Isaiah 53:12 suggests. But Jesus goes further. He forgives sins directly. In Mark 2:5-7, the scribes ask the right question: who can forgive sins but God alone? They expected a leader who would guide the people in serving God, as we see in Luke 1:68-75. But Jesus presents Himself as the Lord who is to be served. In Luke 12:35-40, He speaks of Himself as the Master who returns and finds His servants waiting. The climax of this scandal comes in John 8:51-59,
when Jesus declares, "Before Abraham, I am." The response is immediate. They pick up stones to kill him.
At the same time, and this is the paradox, Jesus also seemed too small for the Jews. Here, it is helpful to listen to N.T. Wright. Commenting on 1 Corinthians, he explains that no Jew at that time expected a Messiah who would be executed by Rome. A Messiah was supposed to defeat the pagans, not be killed by them. Jesus does not confront Rome with violence. Instead, he teaches submission to civil authority, as in Matthew chapter 5, verse 41 and Matthew chapter 22, verse 21. He does not establish an immediate political kingdom, but proclaims a kingdom that grows through the word, as shown in the parable of the sower in Luke chapter 8, verses 5 through 15. On top of that, Jesus comes from Nazareth and is treated with contempt, as in John chapter 7, verse 41. His origins are questioned, he is falsely accused, and in the end he dies on a cross, a shameful and cursed death. The Westminster Confession describes this clearly when it says that Christ, in carrying out his mediatorial work, humbled himself in his life and in his death, submitting to the shameful death of the cross. Paul now shifts the focus. Christ is not only a stumbling block to the Jews, he is foolishness to the Gentiles, that is, to the Greek way of thinking. Greek culture prized virtue, nobility, self-sufficiency, public honor, and philosophical wisdom. Jesus represents the opposite. He teaches that the greatest must be a servant in Matthew 23:11. He teaches discretion rather than show in Matthew 6:2-3. He allows others to support him financially in Luke 8:3. He spends time with sinners in Luke 9:5, Matthew 9:11. He teaches that the human heart is the source of sin, not virtue, in Matthew 15:19. He preaches forgiveness, not revenge. He weeps in John 11:35, and he dies in humiliation between criminals. Once again, N.T. Wright helps bring this tension into focus. Simply telling the story of Jesus and his cross already sounded ridiculous in the ancient world. The cross reveals a completely different kind of power, the power of God, before which all human power looks weak, and the wisdom of God, before which all human knowledge looks foolish. Wright even goes further and says that the Christian good news speaks of God dying outside the city, on the wrong side of the empire, confronting a world of power, prestige, and philosophy in order to establish a kingdom where the weak and the foolish are just as welcome as the strong and the wise, or even more so. Jesus asks a question in Luke 9:20 that still confronts us today. Who do you say that I am? This is not only a theological question, it is deeply personal. Many times we repeat the mistake of the Jews. Jesus seems too great to us when we fail to trust his sovereignty. In our hearts, we say things like, "This problem has no solution. I'm on my own," or "If I don't do everything myself, nothing will happen." The Westminster Confession reminds us that Christ now exercises his kingly office, ruling and defending his people. At other times, Jesus seems too small to us. In practice, we question whether he is truly sufficient. We grow frustrated because we do not have what we want: possessions, status, relationships, or health. But the confession speaks clearly when it says that Christ, by his perfect obedience and sacrifice, has fully satisfied the justice of God. If he has satisfied divine justice, then he is sufficient for us. Paul concludes by saying that for those who are called, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. 1 Corinthians 1:24. What the world calls a stumbling block and foolishness is in truth the glory of God revealed in the cross.
This is the message the Church is called to proclaim, to teach, and to live. Soli Deo Gloria. If this message has helped you, like the video, share it with others, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel.